Yesterday, we in the Nasobia and Igbo Unification, we are the National Assembly Joint Committee on 2025 Constitutional Amendment, and we were able to meet with the Deputy Senate President. We met so many other senators, and you can see it on the Vanguard that there's an agreement between the lower chamber and the upper chamber. I mean, the House of Representatives and that of the Senate, that the state need to be created for the Southeast Igbos, which is supposed to be Anyoma State. Yes, we know there are other decisions that need to be made because there are other states that are also agitating other parts of Igbo. But for the interest ofIndi Igbo, for the interest of everybody, Anyoma State should be created. Historically, we have been the one agitating for a state, the longest agitation of state in Nigeria. However, we understand that we still have some internal people who are politically and selfishly fighting against it, or who are ignorantly fighting against it, based on, say, they will call the state Ndi Igbo state, because it will be zoned to Southeast. And I personally might not actually do justice to this topic. That's why I want you to watch this video from this army man. If an army personnel can know you this, like we have said it, that your enemy knows you better than you know yourself. The reason is because if anything happens, these guys study history in their school, in the college, in army college, they study history because it's the only way they can be able to identify who is who. You know, you'll be wondering, if you are passing, how do these people know that this person is TV or this person is, by just looking at the person, not you saying anything. Even when you say things, they can tell where you are coming from because they study. If these army people can know you like this, that when you speak you are an Igbo person, that will tell you what happened in 1966. Listen very carefully and I will be back.
I saw one on Senator Nodwoko's interview where he was speaking in Igbo language. But on the comment section, so many people were busy asking, oh, I thought this man is from Delta State. How come he's speaking Igbo fluently like this? Some were asking, oh, is South South Igbo land? Is Delta State Igbo land? Thousands of questions like that. I saw all those things and I laughed because it reminded me of one young man from Abudu in Edo State who once argued that he was not an Igbo man, while his name is Ugochukwu. They ended up asking him, okay, what is your tribe? He said, Abo. While everybody knows that if anybody should speak in Abo tongue, it is pure Igbo. That was also how one of my friends from Ikwere in Port Harcourt also argued that he was not an Igbo man, that he's an Ikwere man, that he's not an Igbo man. While everybody knows that if anybody should speak in Ikwere tongue, it is pure Igbo. I'm not trying to campaign for the Igbos. Rather, I'm just using this as references so that you will understand, you will vividly understand what I mean and what I'm trying to say. All these kind of mindsets are common in this country because we fail to understand the difference between political boundaries and actual tribal boundaries. We fail to understand that states, local governments, countries were all politically carved out. They are all political boundaries and not actual tribal boundaries. We fail to understand that. And not understanding this have made so many of us not to know our roots, which is totally wrong. For example, according to history, right from day one, Sokoto had only one emir. That is emir of Sokoto. Right from day one, they have only one emir. But with this kind of mindset that we have, do you know that if anything should happen and they carve out another state from Sokoto, if anything should happen now, they demarcate another state or carve out another state from Sokoto, do you know that that new state, that newly carved out state, we have their own emir? They will end up having, that is one group of people who's supposed to have only one emir. Traditionally, we end up having two emirs in disguise of two different states. That is to tell you how this political boundary of a thing have eaten deeply into us in such that it is also affecting us traditionally. But we fail to understand that. Do you know that till date, so many people still believe that if you are coming all the way from Lagos and you want to go to the Igbo land, you will not get to the Igbo land until you cross that river Niger to enter Anambra State. That's when, once you enter Anambra State, that's when you get to the Igbo land. Not knowing that all the way from Abo, not knowing that all the way from Abo bypassing Edo State, you are already in Igbo land. Some still don't believe that if you are coming from Cross River, and some still don't believe that Cross River never ended. It never ended. Some of the Efik stay after the Cross River boundary and you enter into Ebonyi State. Some still don't believe that some Efik are in Ebonyi State, while some still don't believe that some Igbo communities are in that Cross River. Some also believe that once you are coming from Lagos and once you come where the boundary of Ondo State ends, that's where Yoruba ends, which is also wrong. Some never believe that Yoruba land also extended into Edo State. Some never also believe that Yoruba land also extended into Kogi State. The earlier we start to believe, the earlier we start to clear up, or the earlier we start to have this consciousness that political boundaries are not the actual boundaries. They were just politically carved out, will be the better for us. Because these have created a kind of mindset in such that one particular tribe who may see themselves in three or more than 2 different states will start seeing themselves as different bodies just because they find themselves in different states. They'll start seeing themselves as different bodies. The earlier we start to understand this fact that states, local governments, and countries are just political boundaries and not the actual tribal boundaries, will be the better for us. This ignorance has eaten us deeply.
By that video, you begin to understand that historically, culturally, linguistically, and culturally, Anyoma people, Eka Enu Anyokwane, are 98% Igbos. And we don't take the fact away that there are migrants among us, those who came from other places, like the Ebu community that came from Egala, or the Olukumi that came from this now, those that came from Benin to join us. But everything around us suggests that we are Igbos. However, you may be able to understand that that's why when we say your language tells who you are, it shows who you are. Your language tells you who you are. Your name tells you who you are. This is a pure, simple truth that you don't need to argue about. And we have also said it, that state is not your origin. So when you say I'm a Delta state, it does not mean because you are in Delta that you are not Igbo. Just like we have said it that Urobo are Mbayesa, but because they are Mbayesa does not mean that they are not Urobo. Two brothers are sharing Totu, Egbema in Imo and Egbema in Rivers. That they are in Rivers does not mean there are no more Egbemas. Yorubas are in more than 9 states. They are in 9 states in Nigeria. Because they are in Kwara, or because they are in Kogi, or because they are in Edo State, does not mean that they are not Yorubas. You must understand it that state creation is political and is recent, is not your origin. These are the reasons why people like us are championing the Anyoma state. And like I said, it is for our own benefit. We, the Anyoma people, is for our own benefit. It will benefit us more. If many of you are supporting somebody to come and become senator, like because we know that some of you who are championing that maybe Okowa or another person should come and take over senator ahead of Senator Ned Nwoko. It's not like it's a bad thing. Everybody has interest. That is why it's politics. But listen, if we have a state, we have 3 of their normal sons now to become senators comfortably. Okowa can be a senator in Eka Agbo axis comfortably. Another person can be a senator in Enu and comfortably, because now we now have opportunity. Instead of one person representing the entire Delta North, then 3 people will be representing us in Senate alone. Then we can have more House of Rep, we can have more we can have minister, we can have commissioners, we can have more local government. But you people are not seeing it. Microscopic people, or should I say ignorant or intentional greed. Intentional greed. Because how can't you see that this one will make more of my people be in power and have more projects than one person sitting on that dynamite? This is what this man is doing. This is what Ned Nwoko is doing. Because if not, he would have said, okay, let me still remain a senator and use his APC, use his present position to fight and retain this post after 2027 election, and still continue to be a senator. Whether he did work, he did not do work, we can keep accusing him. There are governors who have not done anything. There are senators who have not done anything for their people. But he will be there, you complain, until you will find a way to remove him. That is the truth. But this man wants us to have a state that can benefit not only him but everybody. So that other people, if he's going to be a senator for the Enu and the people, other people will have 2 more senators in the same Delta North that used to have 1, 2 more, making it 3 to join him. I'm not talking about other things that will come with it. Because once state is created, the Robos and the Sokos and the Shakiris will have worry to themselves, and they will relocate. The indigenous, the non-indigenous will leave, while the indigenous will be employed in the civil service work. But we are not seeing it. How myopic can we be? Little-minded people. This is why we are asking you to support our normal state. Zone it to the south is because the state will be created. You see that news that they have resolved that the state will be created and that state will zone to southeast. Let's take this advantage. This is the reason why people like me are preaching this Igbo unification. Let's take the advantage. If we lose it because of you don't want them to call you a Southeasterner, you don't want IPOB, we're going to regret it. We are going to regret it. A goal has been presented before our hands now. Let's take this advantage. I'm out of here, John.